to bless you, Lord. The theme of my praise is to bless you all of the rest of my days. The theme of my praise is to bless you. The theme of my praise is to bless you, Lord. The theme of my praise is to bless you all of the rest of my days. In 1,000 ways I will bless you all of my days. In 1,000 ways I will give you blessing and praise.
Hi, in this series, Reverend Dr. Nixon De Vera will be reading his book, Constructing Eschatology, Rethinking the Prophecy in Isaiah, to delve into who God is and what God is capable of, considering life in general, especially in your life. Questions like, to what extent God has foreordained things, specifically before and during the final day of judgment. The author thinks all that concerns God's majestic plan, that is, to accomplish God's purpose for humanity, is covered in its entirety. In short, God is highly active in foreordaining things, and whatever God foreordains shall be fulfilled in the end. There will be intermission songs in between readings, courtesy of the Haven of Rest Quartet. Let us now hear from Nixon.
In being a God in and of the covenant, remarkably, God determined himself to be faithful to the unfaithful. In self-committing to the covenant, God chooses not to abandon his covenant partners, bent on abandoning him. In the preservation of the covenant, God remains holy with those inclined to unholiness. In the spirit of the covenant, God voluntarily bonds himself to a people who long to be unbonded, since they despise servitude to the Lord. By being for us, therefore, God chooses to love the unlovable. In such an uncompromising commitment, the compromise of Israel is overridden. In the covenant paradigm, Israel does not remain negligible and irrelevant due to his covenant partner. God's self-appointment in the covenant is immutable insofar as his unceasing commitment is concerned, and the self-appointment in the covenant is unstoppable insofar as his strong intent and forceful readiness are concerned. Correspondingly, divine intent and readiness outweigh human irresolute and dullness. God is undeniably capable of turning the seemingly impossible into possible. His intent is so strong that it overwhelms any discontent. Furthermore, God's readiness is so forceful that it overpowers any act of rebellion. The discipline of the called. Some might wonder, if God elects Israel, does it mean that God favors Israel? Yes, God favors Israel, but he does not exercise favoritism. The elect is tasked to introduce their God to other nations. If taken lightly, then serious consequence follows. Being elect has nothing to do with being treated as a VIP. Instead, the elect is duty-bound to undertake the commission. What is not apparent is the fact that the elect has to suffer. By suffering, the elect finds contentment and ultimately gratification. We can better grasp this notion if we view it coincident with judgment. The first application of judgment in the Old Testament, I should say, is positive. When God says, I will judge my people, this conveys God's accompaniment of the people. The judge is also the vindicator, hence the frame of verdict is, justice given equates to vindication spoken. The second application of judgment is negative, which denotes the condemnation and punishment of the guilty. But as long as God favors Israel, his condemnation is revoked. The punishment of Israel remains. This is not merely through the dismissed thought of favoritism, but also to make the people just. The elect, by default, enjoys divine justice, so the elect is said to be under judgment. Such interplay of justice and vindication is evident in the covenantal paradigm. Thus the elect has its good times and bad times. The good times correspond to God, that is, commitment to the covenant. The bad times correspond to something other than God, opposition to the covenant. The tension between contentment and discontentment is constant in the covenant. God's partners are humans, highly volatile and treacherous due to self-centeredness. The predisposition to self is what the Lord of the covenant consistently transforms into being other-centered. First to God, second to fellow human beings. God does it through surgical means, painful but necessary. We can see here the demonstration of the realness and timeliness of the foreordained. The discipline of Israel is through defeat and exile, painful. However, discipline is not a reaction on God's part, but a pre-action to activate the binding power of the covenant by actualizing the intended good for Israel, necessary. In this light, the concept of favoritism within election is inviolable, hence far from the truth. In fact, God did not leave the pride of Israel unchecked. God dealt it with severity. Crudely speaking, that is the flip side of being elect, quite the reverse of being favored. The Lord God says, quote, I will lay waste the mountains and hills, and wither all vegetation. I will make the rivers into coastlands, and dry up the ponds. I will lead the blind by a way they do not know. In paths they do not know, I will guide them. I will make darkness into light before them, and rugged places into plains. These are the things I will do, and I will not leave them undone. Unquote. Isaiah 43:15-16. Whenever the people of Judah become self-sufficient and slip into choosing gods of their own making, the Lord immediately disciplines them. Whatever their source of hubris, such as wealth, knowledge, security, God takes it without hesitation. In poverty, bewilderment, and uncertainty, they learn to remember God and renew their allegiance to Him. Hence the phrase, darkness into light. God so loves Judah that He will correct her, even if this is unfavorable. God is so committed to Judah that He will take her back, even if this is disturbing. God acts according to what He foreordains, to keep the people in the covenant. Thus it is written, quote, Remember the former things of old, for I am God, and there is no other. I am God, and there is none like me, declaring the end from the beginning, and from ancient times things that are not yet done, saying, My counsel shall stand, and I will do all my pleasure. Unquote. Isaiah 46:9-10. God is eternal. He is capable of completing the election congruent to His honor. Notice here the divine perspective of doing things. Something appears inverted, the end from the beginning, instead of the usual, from beginning to end. Critical to this framework is the vanishing point, the concealed stacked up against the appearing point, the exposed. In God's expose of humanity, humanity's condition is unpleasant. However, in God's disclosure of the appointment, the human condition is conditioned to be pleasant. In this case, human eschatology is the back end if the divine counsel is rightly conceived as the front end. That is to say that the hereafter is dictated by the beforehand. Also, this implies that the finale of all things is fixed, but wrapped in dynamism in God's willing. It cannot be swayed or altered, but whatever happens in between the beginning and the end. In other words, from the beginning, election, God will reveal the end, consummation. What God can, God will. He can transform His people from being proud to being humble, from being rebellious to being compliant. No one else can do it except the Lord God.
Answer me when I call to you, oh answer me. Answer me when I call to you, oh answer me. Be merciful, O Lord, to me. Be merciful, O Lord, to me. Answer me when I call to you, oh answer me. Answer me when I call to you, oh answer me. Be merciful when I call to you, oh answer me. Be merciful when I call to you, oh answer me. Be merciful when I call to you, oh answer me. Be merciful, O Lord, to me. Be merciful, O Lord, to me.
When God elects the Israelites to be His people, it is binding. The elector will see the election through. In spite of the ever-retracting, ever-repulsive nature of Israel, God is ever dedicated to be his Lord. The divine counsel shall stand, for God will do all to keep Israel by his side. This is what pleases God, for the people to abide by the decree because he abides by it. Election and Covenant. When I say abiding by the decree, this is feasible since God as elector shapes the covenant. The elector is in full management of his relationship with us because he directs it. Although our cooperation is necessary, it is not vital. What is vital is God's work to elevate his covenant partners. Even though Israel has no say in the covenant, what God says to him is comforting. Don't be afraid, I am with you. Don't tremble with fear. I am your God. Isaiah 40, verse 10a. Notwithstanding the stubbornness of Judah to seek imperial insurance, God is also stubborn in reassuring her, I will make you strong as I protect you with my arm and give you victories. Isaiah 41:10b. When God makes a statement, it is self-binding and self-consummating. It is self-binding since the promise is real and enduring. Also, it is self-consummating as it is grounded in the eternal counsel. I would argue that God's self-determination is like a bulldozer, in which everything that comes in the way is demolished and pushed aside. God will do so in accomplishing his purpose. Maybe that is an obstinate effort to disregard the divine message and others. In this line of thinking, God also pushes aside the manner and method of election prone to human conditioning. Because of the inherent disconnect between divine and human, the manner of election is unimaginable and its method is unprecedented. The elector is like no other. One indisputable exhibit of this is the election of Cyrus the Great. It is interesting to note that God refers to Cyrus as anointed. This is where contention about Cyrus originates, as it suggests, yet to a slight degree, that Cyrus is the promised Messiah as predicted in Isaiah. My major argument against such a suggestion is in the concept of holiness. I argue that Cyrus is holy, worthy of God, not because Cyrus is in and of himself holy, but because Cyrus is made holy through election. God anoints him to do the divine pleasure, liberate the people of God from Babylon and assist them to rebuild the temple of Jerusalem. This is entirely different from the holiness of King Emmanuel. The sort of holiness arises from and extends to eternity. It means that the king is inherently and enduring holy in and of himself. I equally stress that Cyrus could be referred to as a Messiah, as a type of the Messiah. Another argument in favor of King Emmanuel as the Messiah is the self-sacrifice he had to undergo for the sake of Israel. Yes, Cyrus had his share of suffering by having to defeat the mighty Chaldean Empire and by freeing thousands of Jewish slaves, even in financing and rebuilding of the Jewish temple, which could have incurred a heavy toll on the treasury of the Persian Empire. But that is nothing compared to the grievous and shameful death of the Messiah. Likewise, Cyrus could typify Israel as being primarily unholy, but finally made holy by election. God used Cyrus, a heathen, to do his bidding. This indicates that God can use Israel even if he lived like a heathen. It stimulates openness to the Gentile world instead of nursing Jewish particularism. The point is, God is unconditioned in his election. The conditioned in it are the humans determined to be gods and fulfill God's work on earth. After considering the nature and operation of election, we will now investigate who else is deemed the elect in the Bible. The elect. Aside from Israel and Cyrus, the rest of the elect vary in number and feature, namely, citizens of Jerusalem, inhabitants of the new heaven and earth, and Jesus Christ. The reader might take it that the citizens of Jerusalem are redundant with Israel, albeit it has to be emphasized that the focal subject here is specifically the Jews. The role of Judah is fundamental in explicating the election of the remaining two elect. Isaiah says, quote, "Get you up to a high mountain, O Zion, herald of good tidings. Lift up your voice with strength, O Jerusalem, herald of good tidings. Lift it up, do not fear. Say to the cities of Judah, here is your God." Unquote. Isaiah 40 verse 9. The Lord summons in particular the people of Jerusalem to be bold in their mission because he abides with them. God has elected the Jews to continue the commission bestowed on their forefather Abraham. Even if the Jews desecrated the holy city in the holy name of the Lord, God reconsecrated them to fulfill their calling. This thought strengthens the argument that whoever is chosen is always made fit to pursue the purpose of election. Here we can see the reliability of the electing God by ensuring the integrity of the elected. The logical conclusion acceptable is that divine foreknowledge has everything to do with election. In the permanent self-bonding with the Jews, God reinstated and re-equipped them to remain as elect instead of abandoning and consigning them to incessant shame. Such preference is congruent with God's honor vis-a-vis Abraham. When God befriended Abraham, it goes without saying that God determined himself as the friend of Abraham's descendants as well. In such enduring friendship, it is likewise implied that the citizens of Jerusalem are forever covenanted. This is to state that in God's self-binding, the Jews are automatically bound for life to God. In this elaboration, the covenant members are affirmed and continue to be reaffirmed of their election. Subsequently, the Jews are fastened to their identity, no matter how stained their reputation, by the steady honor and integrity of the elector. Secondly, the elect is the inhabitants of the new heaven and earth, or simply put, the inhabitants of the new Jerusalem. This explains why the specific role of the Jews has to be emphasized in the talk of election. The citizens of Old Zion are converted into those of New Zion by election. They are the undeniable testimony of the reliability of God as the electing God and covenant partner. Whoever is elected is guaranteed progress. Isaiah says, quote, "I, God, even I, have spoken. Yes, I have called him, I have brought him, and his way will prosper. Come near to me. Hear this, I have not spoken in secret from the beginning, from the time that it was. I was there, and now the Lord God and His Spirit have sent me. Unquote. Isaiah 48:15-16.
The Father knows what we need. No need to worry or doubt, for all of nature is held in His hand. But far beyond what we need, He knows the things we desire. And as by faith we approach Him, we know He'll hear our prayer. The birds of the air, the lilies of the field, are fed and clothed by Him. Takes the time to care for them, surely He'll care for you. The Father knows what we need. No need to worry, for all of nature is held in His hand. But far beyond what we need, He knows the things we desire. And as by faith we approach Him, we know He'll hear our prayer. Of the air, the lilies of the field, are fed and clothed by Him. If He takes the time to care for them, surely He'll care for you. Surely He'll care for you. Surely He'll care for you.
Who is God speaking to? The immediate context tells us that God is in conversation with Israel, specifically the Jews. Then God points out to the Jews that He has elected beforehand to happen hereafter. God says that He has chosen an ally against Babylon, so the hymn pertains to Cyrus the Great, and as per election, he will prosper in his mission. Sure enough, Cyrus defeated Nebuchadnezzar, and this turn of events gives credence to the notion that the elector is the king of history. God has chosen Cyrus for Israel. God has selected Cyrus to bless Israel. What does not come to the surface right away is the idea that God also used the Chaldean monarch to act out the divine will for Israel. To a certain extent, I contend, Nebuchadnezzar is selected to demonstrate the divine discipline of the Jews. In other words, we can view here the election dialectically. Nebuchadnezzar is the no serving the yes, who is Cyrus. The former is called to strike God's people, whereas the latter is called to heal them. To To that effect, Nebuchadnezzar's downfall triggers the rise of Cyrus. Because things happen in exacting detail as predicted, the election of the people for the New Jerusalem is assured. The success of Cyrus is the progressive statement for the elect. Ergo, the renewed Jews of the renewed Jerusalem correspond to the decreed result in the divine council. Accordingly, the residents chosen to bask in the new heaven and earth remain to be so. The human back end is set in stone. After unpacking Cyrus's part in the passage, we have to establish the identity of the me whom the Lord God and the Spirit sent, as it introduces the final elect on our list. The passage itself hints at that the me is someone from the beginning. Given the election, the writer of Deutero-Israel is called upon to magnify the primordial elect, the ultimate Jew. The text in Isaiah unfolds, quote, "Here is my servant whom I uphold, my chosen in whom my soul delights. I have put my spirit upon him. He will bring forth justice to the nations." Unquote. Isaiah 42:1. The servant is unique in status and purpose. This status is unique insofar as God's treatment is considered. The chosen is one in whom God delights. The servant is very unlike Cyrus or Israel/Jews because, to begin with, God is pleased with him. God accepts him favorably. The elect, therefore, is inherently pleasing and innately favorable, for these attributes are perpetual. Concurrently, the purpose is unique insofar as the scope of the mission is accounted for. Once again, the elect is deviant concerning Cyrus, yet cognate concerning the Jews in terms of evangelistic territory. The mission of the former is confined to the ancient Near East regions, the Babylonian kingdom and the Jewish nation. The mission of the latter is unconfined, hence universal, to all kingdoms and nations. The chosen one will bring forth justice worldwide because the Spirit is upon him. This brings to mind what we analyzed in the previous passage, that the Spirit sent the elect. Although Cyrus is elect, there is no biblical support for his full endowment of the Spirit. Jesus Christ perfectly fits the above features not because he is made fit, but rather he is fit. The Spirit did not merely send Jesus Christ, but crucially, he is the abode of the Spirit. In retrospect, the following elect, namely Cyrus, Israel, and the Jews, are all types of the ultimate elect. Jesus Christ is the elected as the electing God. Karl Barth articulates that, quote, "The Son of God given by the Father to be one with man, and to take himself the form of man. He is elected," unquote.
Thanks for joining us and wish you could be with us next time in our series on Constructing Eschatology, Rethinking the Prophecy in Isaiah. Until then,
I cast all my cares upon you. I lay all of my burdens down at your feet. And anytime that I don't know just what to do, I will cast all my cares upon you. And anytime that I don't know just what